The following audio may contain the personal testimonials of some OPTAVIA coaches or clients of OPTAVIA. The results relayed in these messages are based on the unique experiences of the participants, and we cannot guarantee like or similar outcomes. While you may be inspired by these accounts, please note that any stories of success have not been verified and your individual path to optimal health will vary. As always, it is our recommendation that you consult with a healthcare provider before starting a weight loss program. Yours in health, the OPTAVIA team.
All right, guys, welcome to our call tonight, webinar. People are funneling in, so that looks great. We're almost up to 500. Look at that. All right, so time to get cooking on our presentation tonight. My name is Craig Blanchette, and I'm a certified independent OPTAVIA coach. And it's exciting to be with you and meet with you guys all tonight. Tonight's topic is called Pain Pushes, Desire Pulls, and this is actually a topic that I talked about probably 4 or 5 years ago, and it was a pretty popular one, lots of comments. It really impacted a lot of people. So I'm hoping that it'll do the same tonight and it'll impact you as well. Just to share a little bit about myself tonight. So this is a before and after picture of me, and really the after. These are just the physical attributes of what happened inside as I developed this an understanding of the pain pushing and the desire pulling in my own life. And that the picture in the background is me at about 50 pounds heavier. And I was, of course, that was a Lycra racing suit that used to fit me really well. And I'm glad that it stretched, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to get it around that enormous body I had there. I look in that picture and I kind of ask myself one question: where was my chin hiding? And that's one of the questions I ask myself a lot about that photo. But I actually was still able to do quite a bit of athletic endeavors. I'm a former Olympic bronze medalist, had a pretty long and fruitful racing career where I set 21 world records, and I was an 8-time world champion. So I raced at a very high level for a long time, was sponsored by Nike for 8 years, did about 9 commercials with them, had quite a bit of success physically. And even though my body was still fairly capable of doing athletic things, like I said, that photo there was at the 100-mile mark of a 200-mile race or bike ride called Seattle to Portland. And I took that photo still thinking that I was in pretty good shape. And of course, I know many of you, when you finally get to a point where something needs to change, it's when you see a photo of yourself, obviously, that somebody else took, and you go, oh my goodness, I had no idea. And that's what happened in this photo. I saw that and I thought, boy, something's got to change here. And so through really the community and the philosophy that OPTAVIA has developed, we've gotten to a point where we can understand that what happens on the outside will be temporary unless there's a change on the inside, and specifically the way that we access our life, the things that we focus on. And so we're going to be talking a lot about that tonight. And one of the big challenges that many of us humans have is, I've heard this said countless times, and that saying is, I know what to do, it's just doing it. Right? If you've said that, why don't you put a 1 in the chat there? Because yeah, look at it. It's amazing. I know what to do. It's just doing it. And I heard Dan Bell. Dan Bell's one of our amazing leaders, And he said, what I would wager, if you're willing to hear me, is that you might know the mechanics of what to do, but if you don't know how to apply those, then there's still something to learn. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. It's a philosophy of how to avoid the yo-yo, how to avoid the knowing what to do and seemingly thinking, sure, it's something I want, but then not actually doing anything about it. You can't quite put it all together. So we're going to be talking about that. And I've been battling and fighting for the last 9 years to learn and to grow and understand how I can actually let desire pull me versus always going back to pain and having it give me the push to get me started again. So here's a little concept here, and this is how many of us get started on our journey. Something happens. That something might be a photo. Then you go, woof, man. Or you might have a visit with your doctor, or it might be it's time for bathing suit season, and you go to put on your bathing suit, and it stretches, but still it doesn't cover things right. Or maybe you get to a point where you go to run to the mailbox and things don't move like they used to. Or maybe you're down on the ground playing with your kids or your dog or your grandkids, and you go to get up and things just don't really get up. Whatever it is, something happens and you go, okay, I'm done. And your motivation is high enough because the pain is great enough. And I call that pain pushes. And so whatever that is for you in your life, when the pain is great, the push is great. And if the pain is great enough and the push is great enough, it will cause you to move in a forward direction. Now, the problem with that is that our motivation is connected to the pain. And so what will happen very quickly is you'll start making progress. And that is a good thing. But when you're in this setup, in this type of a structure, this is as the pain decreases, so does the push. And so our motivation diminishes. And that's a problem. And so as our motivation diminishes, the push is less, the pain is less. And what does that do? It causes us to stop our progress. And then we never really get down to our healthy weight, but we make some progress, and only to fairly quickly return to where the pain is great enough. And so the push becomes great enough, and then we start to move again. And so that's another term we call that is the yo-yo, right? And I know I don't have to even ask for a show of hands because I just know, been there, done that, right? That's Leslie. Yeah, been there, done that. All of us have. This is actually part of our human structure, that pain will motivate us unless we develop or switch the structure at how we live our lives. That's all we're going to have. And it's good. I know that it's very useful and it's very helpful, but it's not where flourishing lives. It's not where I think people want to be, losing weight only to gain it back again. I mean, here's a funny one. Put a 1 in the chat if you want to lose your weight and gain it all back. Oh, good. 0. Very nicely done, guys. Yeah, exactly it, right? Nobody wants to do that. Actually, every client that I've ever worked with, when I ask them, how soon after you lose your weight would you like to gain it back? And none of them have said right away, or within 2 years, or within a few months. Think about that. So that is I did the math, 0.04% chance that you have if you are signing up for a weight loss program or a diet. So many of you are part of OPTAVIA thinking it's a weight loss plan, and you're using it as a diet. And I'm telling you, a 0.04 chance of getting to your goal weight and keeping it off for 2 years. So what if we changed that? What if we switched it around and we were looking for 98% success? That's what I want. And when I mean success, I don't mean just getting to a goal weight. I mean keeping the weight off and bonus, more healthier relationships, having our health spill over into the lives of the people we care about. That's what I'm talking about, right? And so we talk about the idea of pain. We all have whatever kind of pain, whatever kind of uncomfortableness that gets us going. And it's very useful. But it's, like I said, it's not where this flourishing, this thriving, this lifelong transformation, this sort of this philosophy and picture of health that OPTAVIA is promotes. Let's lose it, let's get rid of it, and let's continue what's next, keep moving. And so this idea of desire poles, if you think about the idea of desire poles, you think about, here's an example. Imagine if you were just to assume you're going to get all the way to your goal weight. Let's just assume that. Now that you're there, what types of things are you going to pull off the shelf and begin doing again? What are the dreams that you're going to dust off because now your body says, yes, I can do that. And so you're going to go do it. This is why we get healthy, because at every human being that has dreams and goals, when your body is healthy, those are more achievable and attainable. It's just a common thing. And so we look at our desire and we allow it to pull us. Another way of thinking about this is, think about this. Let's say that you've guys seen a grappling hook, right? I think grappling hooks are pretty awesome. And so this is an idea, a visual that I think works really good. A grappling hook, you basically point it at where you want to go, and then you shoot it, and it usually there's some kind of a gap between you and where it's going, and it hooks onto that, kind of like an anchor. And now you have a cord going from where you are to where you want to be across some type of a challenge or a gap, right? So think about this thing of desire pulling, and you're on one side of this canyon, and you take your grappling hook and you shoot it across the other side, and now you have something that's anchored to where you want to be. It's almost like, if you will, a bridge to get from where you are to where you want to be. You're not focused on where you don't want to be. Your attention is directed to where you do want to be. Now, there's a couple challenges with that kind of mentality. One is it takes some courage. It takes courage to say, this is where I want to be. This is what I want. Every day when I've asked many clients, what is it you want? And they start listing things they don't want. Isn't it interesting? Because that's what's first in our mind. What's the pain? What's the thing that I don't want? Because it just pops up all day long. And what we need to do is kind of settle that down and get quiet and think about, if I was already at my healthy weight, why is that of value to me? What's the benefit of being there? What's the want of being there? And so when you think about that, now you start to create value in the work. Another example, we live in Oregon, Washington area. And so for me growing up as a kid, when we would go to Disneyland or Disney World are kind of the two big places that people go, we would drive, and it's about 1,000 miles. So that's roughly 20 hours drive, 15 to 20 hours, okay? And for a 10-year-old, that's an eternity. Nobody, even adults, want to sit in a car for 20 hours. But many, many, many people do it because why? Because where they're going is somewhere they want to go, and they're willing to pay the price of sitting in that car to get there, right? Being uncomfortable. And so, so think about that. If the value of what you're chasing is great enough, you'll want to do the things necessary to build it, right? I was talking to another one of my clients today, and he said that he was having some taste fatigue. He was getting bored with the fuelings, and I thought to myself for a minute, well, tell me about the reasons why you're eating these fuelings in the first place. And he gave me some reasons that weren't really rooted. It was almost like, well, I want to go to some adventurous place. It wasn't like I want to go to Disneyland, right? And because I'm thinking to myself, if I'm on my way to Disneyland and I don't like the way the car smells, who cares? If I'm super clear on Disneyland and the building the memories, connecting with my family, I see myself zooming down the roller coaster and having a wonderful time. And so as you think about those kinds of things, maybe for you, the goal is to go to the Grand Canyon. I talked with one of my mentors, and he said he asks his clients to, let's just assume you're going to get your goal weight, write down the top 10 things you want to do when you get there, because being in a healthy body is going to make every one of those more achievable, right? And so what if on your list was to go to the Grand Canyon? Well, if it's really going to happen, you're going to do a couple of things. You're probably going to take a minute and figure out the best time of year to go to the Grand Canyon. You're probably going to think about where you're going to stay, what hikes you're going to take. Are you going to go from the top to the bottom? Are you going to do the river at the bottom? I think it's the Rogue River. Are you going to stay on top? Are you going to bring a bicycle? Who are you going to ride horses? I think you can ride horses down to the bottom. There's a lot of things you can do there. Well, what if you went on the internet and you started typing about best times to go to the Grand Canyon? And what if you spent some time with this desire that you have, that being in a healthy body and at a healthy weight is going to allow that whole thing to happen much, much better, much, much more successful. You spend 2 or 3 hours working on this, setting it up, planning it. That's going to get inside you differently than, oh, I want to feel better. I want more energy. I want to lose a little weight, and I want my clothes to fit a little better. Those are all kind of vague things that won't really get you very far. You tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, right? When you have those kind of vague ideas of what you want, they don't have the pulling power. They don't have the anchoring power. Here's another one. Maybe your idea is that you want to have an adventure, and you think that maybe going in a balloon is going to be something that's on your bucket list, your healthy bucket list, right? And if you're in a healthy body, you're going to fit in that balloon better. You're going to move around better. There's a lot of things that'll happen that being in a healthy body just makes everything better. It just does, right? So maybe that's another one. What if you wanted to do a triathlon? Think about that. Triathlon, swim, bike, run, right? 3 disciplines, all in themselves. Swimming is not easy, all in itself. Very technical, very lots of practice on technique, and not to mention, you only get to breathe. You can't just breathe whenever you want. I mean, swimming is hard, right? What about biking? Now, biking, you have all this equipment. You have to get used to the saddle. You've got a helmet. You've got all, these expensive things. And then running, right? Running's tough on a body. And so each one of those 3 things is a challenge. You add all 3 of them together, and it's amazing. Well, what if your goal is to run a triathlon? Maybe it's a full triathlon. Maybe it's as short as a sprint triathlon. Being at a healthy weight, having low inflammation systems, having a good fueling system, understanding glycemic index, understanding about mindset and toughness and setting goals, all that's going to be better with the philosophies that OPTAVIA offers. So maybe that is yours. So if you think about that's what you want to do, go search for a sprint triathlon in your area and learn everything you can about it. Find out if any of your friends have done it. Find out if somebody will do it with you. These are the types of things that are going to be necessary. If this is something you want to do, then the price you'll pay to do it will be worth it. Now, here's an idea. Someone said something about, I'm really passionate about this thing. And I was telling my wife, yeah, I'm really passionate about whatever it is. Actually, I'd love for you guys to write down. It looks like some of you guys have. If you guys have something that you want to do that's specific and it's a really clear thing that you want, I would love for you guys to put that in your chat and just list some things that you want to do. But I was talking to my wife about, I said, I'm really passionate about this. And she said, do you know where the word passionate comes from? And I said, well, it comes from the word passion. And she says, well, what does passion mean? And I says, it's you're really excited about something you really want to do. And she says, wrong. She said, the word passion means to suffer. Think about that. If you're passionate about something, it means you're willing to suffer to achieve it. So getting to the Grand Canyon, getting to a healthy weight, doing a triathlon, going in a balloon ride, whatever those things are, if you're passionate about it, you will be willing to suffer to go do it, right? So think about this. What if you, one day you want to have some grandkids? And I hear lots of my clients talk about having grandkids and being fit for the grandkids. And think about, it seems like that's not enough though. What if you were, I think you have to dial it down and figure out what kinds of things you're going to do with your grandkids. And maybe even start putting some plans together. You know, this was, what if you took your grandkids to the Grand Canyon? Couple of grands, right? Grand Canyon, grandkids. What if that was your focus that you wanted to do? And instead of just getting them there, you were going to be present with them there, making memories like the one you see here. What if you're going to rent an RV and drive there, and you're going to spend a week there, and you're going to hike to the bottom of the Grand Canyon? That would be an amazing memory. Those are the kinds of things that get me excited. Off-roading and making memories, doing adventure things. So think about these kinds of things as you're thinking about. We only do things we want to do. And you have to get the want so clear that you're willing, that you're passionate about it and willing to suffer what's necessary to get there. Another story here that I think will be relevant is I talked with a guy, and he's a contractor. He owns like a development company. And so they go and they put in sidewalks and irrigation and sewers, and they develop land so that it can be built on. And I said, when you're out there digging in the ground, digging holes and moving rocks and dirt around, how often do you look at the blueprints? He said, multiple times a day. I said, interesting. Because the blueprint is a vision for what the end result's supposed to look like, right? That's why everything is put together real carefully. And I said, what if you didn't have a blueprint or you didn't check it out very often? He said, well, we might dig a hole in the wrong place. I said, yeah, and you might minimize it down to just a bunch of holes in the ground. Or you might minimize it down to a fueling or a weight loss program or a diet or all these things that that are uncomfortable that I don't get to do, right? Versus looking at that blueprint and seeing, wow, these little holes, if they're dug in just the right places, are going to build an amazing thing where families will build houses on, and they'll have grandchildren there, and they'll celebrate Christmases together. So if you think about it, what he was doing was actually a lot more than digging holes. He was creating environments for people to build memories. So a couple things for you to think about here. This is the emotional Swiss Army tool. When you're getting into a situation, first of all, you have to have a really clear anchor into the future. You got to get that grappling hook, and you got to aim it well and shoot it across that chasm, right? Get it nice and anchored. And then once you're anchored, you're going to come to obstacles. And when those obstacles come along, in order for Stop, Challenge, Choose to have some pull, so that desire can pull, it has to be anchored really well. And so stop, take a few breaths. You have to slow down and get out of your emotional mindset, because when you're in your emotions, food wins and your dreams lose. Stop and then take a few breaths. That allows your rational mind to catch up, and almost like your dreams to be you to remember your dreams. Then you ask yourself two questions. This is in the form of a challenge. If I choose this, will it get me closer to my anchor, to my desire, or will it delay it? Why would you ever want to delay one of your dreams? So you say, will this get me closer, or will this delay it? And if it delays it, you can say, well, I'm going to choose this other thing instead. And that's where the choose comes in. Stop, challenge, choose. You probably do 4 to 10 of those every day. And they have to be rooted and anchored to your want, to the why, to the vision of what you're creating. All right? Think about this. If you have a boat that only has one anchor, and a storm comes along and that anchor breaks, you lose your boat. What if you had 5 or 6 anchors? In this picture here, I think there's 2 or 3 anchors that are holding this boat down. A storm comes along, and if you got 5 anchors, 4 of them can break and your boat stays. So what are the anchors in your life? What are the things that you are shooting your grappling hooks at that are in the future, that are going to anchor you? When you use Stop, Challenge, Choose, you'll pull on that anchor and it'll stay secure, and you'll say, cheeseburger, you just don't qualify. French fries, you don't make the cut. I got things I'm doing. And you pull on that anchor and it pulls you through that hard thing. So I got a little assignment for you guys. You ready for this? Assume you will get all the way to your next goal, your weight goal. Start with just assuming you're there. Pretend as if. Now that you're there, tell me what is better. And be verbose. Don't try to do this in 2 or 3 words. Write paragraphs about this. Get this in. Do research. Look up pictures. Find commentaries. Find people's comments and reviews on all of this. Get some time on what that is that you want to do and why you want to be healthy. And then make a top 10 healthy bucket list. Things that you want to do in a healthy body. Make that list. Then tell someone. Tell your best friend about it. Tell your spouse about it. And then invite someone, hey, you want to work on this together. If you're working with 2 people, oh my goodness, that's an anchor for you. Don't forget to include your coach. If you tell a friend and your coach, that's 2 people. And with you, that's 3. That's 3 anchors. It's a big deal. All right, so that concludes our Habits of Health webinar for tonight. Pain pushes, desire pulls. Hopefully you'll be able to put this to good use, and you'll be able to anchor yourself to where you want to be, and the visualization of your body being healthy, and that then you can use that Stop, Challenge, Choose to pull you there. It's been my privilege sharing with you tonight.
This audio may have contained the personal testimonials of some OPTAVIA coaches or clients of OPTAVIA. The results relayed in these messages are based on the unique experiences of the participants, and we cannot guarantee like or similar outcomes. While you may be inspired by these accounts, please note that any stories of success have not been verified, and your individual path to optimal health will vary. As always, it is our recommendation that you consult with a healthcare provider before starting a weight loss program. Yours in health, the OPTAVIA team.